Hello, good people. Welcome to our show. Hello, bad people. Welcome. Hello, everyone who want to learn more about ASO digital marketing. Welcome, because today we are going to discuss a lot more about organic reach, how you can get results, how you need to go ahead. You don't need to give up if you can't get fast results, because I don't know. I have no idea how to get fast results. It takes time. It takes time. But if you listen this podcast until the end, you can find the way how to minimize this time and get results much faster. I'm so excited to discuss a lot more with Deepak Shukla. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. I'm good, man. I love your energy and looking forward to talking about the little bit that I've learned in my journey about how to generate organic results quicker. So, no, looking forward to the conversation.
I like your business model. We discussed a little bit before the podcast that you can try different approaches, and some businesses can fail, some projects. It's okay for me. It's normal, because I tried many things in order to find something that can work actually for me. And you mentioned about never give up, just go ahead, because of course it takes time to get results. And honestly, I don't know any digital marketing channel that can provide results fast, including paid marketing. I know some people can say, if I go to Google Ads, Facebook ads, I can get results fast. No, I mean, like, I know some businesses that lost $100,000, a lot of dollars, a lot of money, because they thought that paid ads can solve all their problems. It doesn't work like this. So, Deepak, can you tell more about your experience, background, and anything that can help our listeners to learn more about you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, my name's Deepak Shukla. I have 5 or 6 companies that we run at the same time that are all generating revenue and are profitable at any one time. And that we built these over the last decade. Our really one mechanism to build all of these businesses is SEO. That's the driver to build all of the businesses. Typically, at any one time, like now, I'll try and build another 5 or 10 businesses, and 80% of them will just fail because the SEO won't work. Or the SEO will half work, as I call it, but not enough to really build the business. And then from that, typically something will come out that makes sense. And that's been the model for the last decade. And as a consequence, we started in SEO. We now do pet relocation. So we take animals around the world. We took 2 dogs from Athens to Hawaii. We do event catering. We catered for Adidas at the London Marathon. We do stuff with TikTok, Reddit, and the Sheraton Hotel. We do accounting services for traders in the UK. So all of these things really, ultimately, in terms of what I do, my skill, my business contribution, saying, hey, are we getting inquiries coming in every day for a particular business? And if we do, then from there, I can begin to start solving all of the other problems. But that's how I spend 80% of my time thinking, how do we get more leads? How do we get more leads? And that's what I do every day.
We live in a new world. In a new world where we don't pay a lot of attention to traffic, and I know big business owners who even don't measure traffic; they measure just sales. I know some agency owners that have 20 million revenue, and they never check out traffic. They don't care about this traffic, because it's like vanity metric. Okay, if you have traffic, it doesn't mean that you have sales, but they measure sales. If it brings sales, it brings results. Can you tell about metrics that we need to analyze today? Because many things changed since ChatGPT, since AI search. We have Google Gemini, AI Moto, AI Overview, many new things, and people change behaviors. They can get all possible answers on AI chat, but they still need to buy products. So can you tell how you measure the results?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what's interesting, in the last year, I have cancelled a lot of my subscriptions to all SEO tools. So I stopped, for example, paying for Ahrefs. I stopped paying for SEMrush. I stopped looking at Google Search Console, because I realized that the one metric that I've always looked at is how many leads did we generate today. And ultimately, what I realized is that to make sure when that number drops that we're doing the right work, the things that I was doing 10 years ago, or even 20 years ago, before I started the agency, I'm 40 now, back when I was 23, I think I first started, they're still fundamentally the same things as I was doing 20 years ago. And that's the interesting thing. So the platforms that people use might change from ChatGPT or Screaming Frog or Sightbulb or whatever it might be. But the principles: create good content, reach out to good websites, whether you're building links, you're trying to do PR, and ultimately do what I call surface area marketing. How can I, using the one thing that you're quite good at, which for everyone it's different, whether that's video or audio or written, appear in relevant places in a consistent manner as quickly as possible, and then making sure when people visit my website, is it easy to read, clear? Now, the boring part about that is that a lot of people don't want to hear that, because of course there'll be what I call fads that will come and go. So for example, the big thing right now is that everyone says jump onto Reddit to rank in the LLMs. But ironically, Reddit has always been really powerful as a platform well before ultimately ChatGPT or the LLMs are around, because then there was people also ask, and then there was just forum marketing in general, and then there were recommendations anyway when people were looking directly at Reddit as a platform. So I think that that's something that I think is always a key principle. But then also there's always within areas to find gaps and holes, and that's where I think that we've begun to identify, people call it riches in the niches, or focusing more deeply within one space to identify opportunities. And a simple example for us is that we discovered that when we build websites, that for certain niches, we get a 4 to 5 to 1 return if we build a website that has a .ca domain, because Canada's way less competitive than America. So we started building in Canada first, and we're able to get leads within 60 days by carrying out exactly the same activities, but we took it to a less competitive market. And I was like, holy moly, we're getting much better results. So now whenever we launch something new, if it's remote and it can be done remotely, we launch Canada first. So that's an example where we're following the same principles, but we're getting a 5 or 4 to 1 return by following that principle. Now, based upon that, we're now saying, what happens if we now try and do this in India? Because the Indian economy has overtaken the UK, and even though there's more and more of the companies that buy at big ticket prices are from India. So now we're trying to launch in India first to see. So these are just some examples of keeping the same principles, but then tweaking just 1 or 2 minor things, because often you can find that you're carrying out the right routine, but you're in an environment where it's more difficult to get rewarded for the same activity. So this has been something that has been helpful to us. And the thing that I look at is, are we getting leads? What types of leads are we getting? Where are they coming from? And that will usually tell me that that's actually the thing that matters. And that's where we discovered that we're getting a lot of Canadian inquiries on our UK websites, more than we should have. And then I thought, why don't we just try and launch a Canadian website? And we just discovered really quickly, within 60 days, our first inquiry. We don't normally get it that fast. There's something here. Let's now start investing energy. And that now has changed the way that we're building sites currently, as an example.
Oh, that's nice. You mentioned something that can break the old playbook that we had for a long time. You mentioned that you don't use SEMrush Ahrefs. It's interesting. I remember I'm like a few months ago, I wrote the post that you don't need these expensive tools to get great results with SEO. And to be honest, I got a lot of hate. And this post became viral. We got plus 100,000 views on the LinkedIn, 600 comments, and a lot of hate, because many professionals who believe and trust these tools use them. For me, it's okay. I'm okay if someone have the process where when they depend and rely on this data, on this tool. That's okay if it works for you. It doesn't mean that everyone should use totally the same approach, because someone can avoid using these tools and save some money in the different approach. So can you tell about your methods of finding these ideas? If you don't use Ahrefs SEMrush, then you don't need their features like keyword research or authority research. To check out links. So can you tell how you replace all these things with your approach?
Yeah, sure. So what we'll do is that we'll do discovery calls within certain niches for ideal customers. We will take the transcripts from those calls and we will pull it out into the LLMs, and we'll identify through natural language conversations what seem to be the relevant buying keywords that people actually use when it comes to, let's call it, natural language search. Based upon doing enough discovery calls, you really understand what people are actually talking about and how they think about the market. And then you use that as a way to build out kind of keyword relevance. So what then the team will do as someone progresses along a sales journey from intro call to maybe a discovery call, to a proposal call, to a closing call, to then an onboarding call. You get the entire vocabulary within a niche if you do ultimately the questions properly. And you do that with several different people within the same niche, and you get the richest keyword database of the kinds of keywords that don't exist in all of the tools, because everyone else is looking at the tools. But what's interesting is that everybody has access to proprietary knowledge based upon all of the conversations you have with people. And the way that people speak tends to be the way that people type. So I think what happens is you end up optimizing otherwise, like we were doing for what I call marketers searches. So everyone's trying to rank for SEO Agency London. I don't really think that a business owner who owns a salon in Richmond, a client that just signed in with us, or a SaaS company, there's so many variation. The people aren't just searching SEO Agency London as a keyword. I just don't think it follows how people naturally think about stuff. So that is what the team do now day to day. And that basically is our primary place to then identify what I'd call the, CSK, common sense keywords. And what are people talking about? Because that's better than the actual tools if you get it in aggregate. And that's what we tend to defer to and refer to now. And that's where the team do from time to time use keyword research, but our best wins have come from everything that sits outside of the keyword ecosystem. And I tend to favor stuff that isn't in the databases, because I'll say, well, no one else is looking at it. And they'll say, are you sure about this? I said, well, yeah, it's logical. We're in the pet relocation space. But no one searches pet relocation, even though all of the marketing tools say that's a primary keyword. People search take dog France to Spain. And I said, cool, we need to build a set of keywords that reflect what people are actually talking about. So that's how we will do our version of keyword research.
And what do you think about keyword research at all? I mean, like when ChatGPT appeared, when Google Gemini, Google AI mode, AI overview can reply to questions. I mean, like to long questions. So people started to ask more long questions. Of course, it takes time to change the entire behavior, because people still use keywords. Because I mean, like I know early adopters can change. For example, I don't use Google. I use ChatGPT. I use Claude. I use all these great models. Gemini 3.1. It's amazing. So, but anyway, 90% of traffic still on Google, and I'm interested your opinion about keyword research. Do you think this metric can become obsolete in the future, or it will still have some place? I mean, like on this environment.
I mean, I think that what we need to understand is that all kind of derivative tools, aren't they? They derive an insight based upon algorithms and otherwise, but they're not the kind of original source or single source of truth. And knowing that there's a speed at which language, because of the internet, is changing so aggressively, the databases are always going to be X steps behind. So I think that ultimately keyword research has its place, but it's really what often happens is when people talk about keyword research, there's also a huge assumption when people talk about keyword research that the person researching is executing it correctly. So I'll give you a good example. So we were trying to optimize, for example, for B2B lead generation, right, as a keyword, because we thought we want businesses that need lead generation and we'll sell them on some form of lead generation, which of course SEO is. But then you really discover that, well, what if you only want clients who can pay you a minimum of $5,000 a month for campaigns where they expect only, let's say, 4 to 8 leads a month, because SEO takes time? Well, then B2B lead generation is a keyword. The problem with it is you would also get companies that still expect 100 leads a month, or companies that can only afford $1,000 a month. So then you need to look at, for example, the types of businesses where that logic applies, meaning that you might want to then just target so you wouldn't target, for example, financial services lead generation, because in financial services, if I'm a pension provider and I provide retirement funds, I maybe run CPL and I run leads to get residential inquiries. So then you might say, right, I need big banks, I need pharmaceutical companies that sign $1 million contracts. So then you need to really think about, well, B2B lead generation isn't the appropriate keyword because it's very broad. So then I need, so what tends to happen is that a lot of people execute keyword research and said, I did keyword research, but I didn't get the result. But the problem is upstream because I haven't really logically thought through the ideal avatar. And a lot of that, my friend, comes from just sitting and thinking about it because the tool can't give you that. The tool can't tell you, hey, this is going to lead you to a load of leads that aren't going to have enough money to pay you for more than 2 months maximum. And you're going to run. So then people often optimize for the wrong keywords. So keyword research, when done correctly, isn't about tools. Actually, it's thinking about keywords that exist in your industry relevant to your avatar. So the first thing, sit and really think about exactly who you're optimizing for, how much you need them to pay, over what period you need to them to pay, whether it will make financial sense for them, and who that person is. And you'll quickly discover that probably a lot of your keywords aren't correct. So that's where I think a lot of research falls down, because people are too quick to select a keyword because of low keyword difficulty but high CPC, or low keyword difficulty and high commercial buying intent. And it's, yeah, everyone else is optimizing for that, and it's probably not going to be the right keyword anyway because you've not thought about it. So, and we made this mistake. We made this mistake as well, like many a time. And I'm like, holy cow, 70% of our keywords are bringing us the wrong lead that can't help our business. So this is my thoughts on keyword research.
Okay, I want to ask about priorities. I mean, like, look at, so basically any keyword research tool can show a lot of keywords, many keywords. I know some experts don't use keyword research, they use topical research. Yeah. They search topics and can choose which topics can be good for their businesses. To rank in Google, even on ChatGPT, you need to have this topical authority. When you pay attention to specific niche, specific topics. And I see a big issue when new website owners try to optimize for top funnel. I mean, like high volume keywords. It doesn't bring any sales, but they do because of topical authority. So basically, they want to satisfy topical authority to show they're experts in specific niche. That is why they touch these topics. I don't think it's a good idea. For me, you can find a bunch of topics in bottom and medium funnel, you know, to get this topical authority as well. But anyway, so can you tell about your methods how to prioritize things? I mean, like, okay, you have plus 100 topics for specific business that you want to cover in your blog content, in landing pages, in services, products, but you have limited resources. You can't create great content for all these pages. How to choose priorities in order to rank with these keywords?
Yeah, sure. So we don't do top of funnel or middle of funnel. We do bottom of funnel only because we only care about leads. I think the big problem that I have with top of funnel, where you do, for example, low competition but high volume keyword searches, where you look at, for example, educational style content, is again, the keyword research for me is improper because, well, are you building an education company? Do you understand that if you're trying to build an SEO agency and you're showing someone how to optimize keyword research in Ahrefs, that you're still going to need to take them on a journey for them to actually become a paying customer? And the type of people that are looking at those keywords often aren't the decision makers. So we specifically, and that's why all I care about is leads. So we look at bottom of funnel and we look at where there are niches, and niches can also be a subset of regions as well. So a good example is it's much easier to rank in English in Germany than it is to rank in English in the UK. So we rank, or we try and rank for English in Germany because half of the rules don't apply because it's just way less competitive. So you can then do BOFU keyword research and still get a result, which is exactly what, for example, happens in Canada, because we're not trying to rank in New York, we're trying to rank in Toronto. So the same rules aren't as rigorously applied, which means that there's more opportunity. And if you extend that out, that's what we do. So I, for example, one of the things that I realized was, well, I live in Italy right now, so my time zone is Central European time. So I thought, and I asked ChatGPT, and this is my keyword research. ChatGPT, I want to identify, if I'm a marketing agency, all of the English-speaking regions that are within a Central European time zone, that would be awake when I'm awake, that use English, business language English. There are economies where they could conceivably comfortably pay X for marketing services. Based upon my time zone initially, give me the countries that you would identify as top priority. And then it'll start giving you the countries, first of all, saying these countries. One of them being, for example, Norway has a small economy, but it's a good economy. They've got the budget. You're like, great. Am I right in thinking that it's far easier to rank in English in Norway than it is in the UK? And they're like, absolutely it is. And I'm like, great. Guys, let's just go and do this instead, and that's how we built our catering business. All of our biggest catering clients are outside of the UK. And we had to do very little SEO as compared to what we need to do for corporate catering in London versus corporate catering Helsinki, because we did it in Finland as an example, because every company outside of, for example, the UK, or anyone who wants to do an event in Helsinki, they're not going to speak Finnish. They're going to do it in English. So anyone logically who's searching in English in a country where English isn't the primary language has to be a person of wealth anyway. So this is where I again return to, you need to really sit and think about where are the niches where you don't need to really go for topical keyword research. Now, that involves making some business decisions. And some business owners don't want to do that because they'll say, of course, my business is constrained by, for example, just being in the UK. And I'll say we're a physical service, so we don't do outside of the UK. But I'd say, great, apply that same model, but think about cities and pockets within the UK and follow the same process. Now, then if they say, well, my business is local, then you still can look at the same thing at a local level. So this is our approach to it. It does mean, of course, that from a topical authority standpoint, we're never going to, for example, rank for SaaS software, SaaS software services, whatever it might be. But again, I try and track it as a consequence of, well, what's the revenue goal I'm trying to achieve and what's the easiest route to get there using the skills that we have and the resources that we have. And what's also important for us is you have to think about your constraints. So we were talking about how to, so a lot of business owners, I think, don't think about their constraints because, Deepak, let's do topical authority, but do you have the capacity to write 100 educational, really high quality blogs, knowing that very few percentage of them will actually turn into paying clients, and then knowing that you'll get a lot of traffic potentially if you execute. So you have to think always in terms of what could you do that would be feasible and practical without you changing your entire business. And you have to begin there, because otherwise you get lost in trying to do a lot of stuff. And that's, been our model in terms of how which is why, as I told you, 4 or 5 of the websites that we'll launch, they won't work for different reasons, but then one will. And then we're like, great, we've discovered something. And that's how we're 10 years in, we have 6 businesses that make money. And I'd say every 2 years, we have something that can become a business that's got enough, the lead waterfall, the lead kind of cap that we look at is I need 30 sales qualified leads a month, and then I'll start trying to build a business. If I have less than that, I've kind of discovered that it kind of falls apart for different reasons over time. So that's kind of been our approach.
Okay, got it. I have a bunch of questions according to your reply. Very important questions, I think, me and my audience as well. So let's start with creating content. You mentioned a few times about generating content, and of course, I can't deny it. Everyone knows content is king. You need to create real, outstanding, high quality, valuable, fresh content, name it. So, but I'm interested about crafting this content by using GPT, because I get a lot of questions about that. Basically, when ChatGPT was released, in the beginning, the version 3.5 was terrible. So it couldn't create great content. It just created some useless, non-valuable content, generic, and many. After that, some tools appealed like AI detectors, to analyze, okay, if it's original or not. But since then, we have version 5.2 on ChatGPT, and in Codex I see 5.3. We have Gemini 3.1, it's amazing. Claude 4.6. I like all of these models. They're real great, they're real valuable. And today, I use GPT to create content. I love this. But I know one more thing, that I can't create great content in niches that I don't know. So basically, if I'm not an expert in a specific niche, let's take weight loss, finance, anything. I can't because I'm not an expert on that. But I can do it on about SEO, digital marketing because I work on this niche. I know what quality means. And I think users, customers don't care. AI generated or not, they need value. Nobody can check out with AI detectors. Plus 99% will never do it. They just want to get value. And Google doesn't care about at all. So, Deepak, can you tell your methods? How to create high quality content and consider new technologies like ChatGPT or any other models to increase the speed?
Yeah, sure. So I think that you need to so of course everyone's using AI. It'd be crazy to not use it today, number one. Number two, when you
Many
use
people
AI,
still don't use it.
yeah, okay, yeah, you know what?
They believe on that. They believe because they think
you know what?
That.
You're right. I'm completely wrong, actually, because there's loads of people that still don't use it, and you're quite correct. And there's people that will maybe never use it. And then there's everyone else that uses hybrid, let's say. So a lot of people are hybrid. We're hybrid. We would, for example, with ChatGPT, what I know that the team do, we, based upon projects, will have guidelines. Everyone has guidelines, right? So we'll create a project within Claude or within ChatGPT, and within the project we have company level guidelines, and then we have industry level guidelines. And we'll then also into the project, because we'll create a project within ChatGPT, and there's a couple of things that we'll upload. So there'll be copywriting guidelines, SEO guidelines, but there'll also be website guidelines. So what I mean by website is that we'll give the GPT the site map and the content structure and the silos and kind of directional stuff that's important. And we'll also give it some of the industry trends. So that'll be our starting base in terms of what the project will contain in relation to an authority. Well, in relation to a space. We'll then, of course, follow the call method where we take so what the team do now, every time, so the guys, there's maybe 20, 30 sales calls a week. I don't know, actually, to be honest with you, but there's 20 to 30 plus sales calls a week. All of the sales calls are, of course, recorded. All of the transcripts are run through a separate project to spit out potential interesting keywords. These are the keywords that the team use. So already, because a lot of those keywords logically won't exist in the databases because it's natural language keywords, it already means that the competition is going to be significantly less difficult, because we're pulling from a data set that's proprietary because it's just internal calls and it's not a data set that we're using. So that gives you an advantage at a second level. The first level is just making sure your project configuration is set up appropriately. And then, so they're the two things that we do that might be slightly different, I believe. And then everything else is a consequence of what I call effective execution. So after that, it's, human prompting, getting it put together as a draft, looking at it from an editing perspective, publishing it and looking at it live. But then the other thing that we will do is when it does go live, we'll publish, we'll do velocity and volume. So we'll publish 20 blogs within a week, but then we'll observe, I think the team will observe which ones get traffic. So we'll look at, for example, Google. I think then they'll maybe do a quick look at Google Analytics or Google Search Console to say which ones are getting traffic. But sometimes we'll look at it based upon the chatbot on the website, and then we'll understand what is being rewarded or people seem to want, and then we'll use that. So we're constantly trying to get live data to feed back into the content, and that's our process, Anatali, to be honest with you. So nothing, I mean, I don't know if it's hugely scientific, but that's the approach that we follow. And then there'll be one person in the team that's dedicated to doing R&D, which is where they'll kind of look at forums and look at what people are saying. So that's, I think, something that's important, that we have a dedicated person who's just spends all their day looking at forums to say what's working, what's not working, and crowdsourcing insights for what you can do and what you can't do with the LLMs in terms of use this prompt, use this quote, this will get a better result. And because we've got a lot of sites, we'll do a lot of testing internally as well. So we have 130 websites. A lot of them just don't, for different reasons. They work, they don't work. We forget about them. They generate some leads, we stop. And we'll be running a lot of experiments internally, and then there'll be that feedback loop, basically. So that has been incredibly helpful to the team. So that's kind of the combination, I'd say, in terms of stuff that we do.
Yeah, got it. What do you think about blog content? You mentioned about that, to write this blog post, and I use the strategy. Probably I started to use more aggressively since 2011 when first Panda appealed when Google changed the game, because before Panda, we created a lot of e-commerce content and ranked well with info content. But today, of course, after Panda, things change. Google can recognize user intent. Today, probably Google has enough experience to understand what people actually want to get. And so we started to write a lot of blog posts. And for me, it's tough to count how many blog posts we wrote, probably plus 1,000 blog posts. We got millions traffic on them, but I'm not sure about the strategy today. So probably in the future. Of course, we're still writing blog posts. It's important. But what do you think if GPT, Gemini, AI mode, AI overview, ChatGPT, Perplexity can reply to all these questions? And people don't need to click to actually blog post to read more, to get information. Because if people can see in the top 10 results, title and description, it's not enough. They need more information from content creators. But if GPT can reply to this question, it doesn't leave a lot of space to get more information. NCTR is low, people don't need this information. So what do you think about blog content? Of course it works today, but what do you think about the future? We still need to consider the strategy for the future?
I think that surface area, i.e. distribution, and volume of content in whatever medium that you have, I don't really see that going away. How can people know about you if they haven't heard about you? And the only way people can hear about you if you have a lot of distribution, or of course the thesis could be write one powerful thing and then see what you can do to drive that growth. For me, I think that within our space, as a services business, our core focus is selling services, and a lot of that is bottom of funnel. And that means a lot of our content is really it's really about surfacing it in Google or the LLMs, and then people going to the website already having got a need and kind of scan reading some of it, and then ideally booking in a call as a consequence. I think that blogs, in my view, the challenge of it, I think, is that you have to become, they're needed, but you have to go into it knowing that 80% of it will never be discovered. But you don't know what 80%, you don't know which 80% it will be. So for that reason, you have to, but that's the same problem of any platform, that same of podcasts, the same of videos, that same of, so I think that you still need to do it, because really there's a broader distribution paradox that we all face regardless of the niche. Because if you decide to go all in TikTok, how many TikToks are created per second and per day? Does that mean then that the platform is dead? So I think that blogs will still have a place. I think that it's also, of course, the way you get surfaced in the LLMs, you get surfaced in and from a trust perspective, and all kinds of reasons. So yeah, for me, as I think about it out loud, I think that if you have a system, I think that works. I do believe, I repeat it a lot, but you just need to identify how to do more of the same thing. So people say to me, SEO is dead. Different versions of it, right? Different version. And I say, cool. I built 6 multi-million-dollar businesses from it, and I'm still building new ones. So for me, it does okay. And probably that maybe there's better, greater, other ways to do it. And people will tell you, or you'll watch YouTube and everyone says that they've discovered, eternal life if you watch some of the stuff that people are achieving. But I think if you discover a mechanism that works for you, I think my observation of my last decade in business is that it's very, very difficult to then build something entirely new, as opposed to just going way, way deeper with that same mechanism. So what we did is, instead of just pearllemon.com, there's pearllemon.com, pearllemon.co.uk, pearllemon.ca, pearllemon.in. We just build multiple sites in multiple TLDs. And I think, okay, great. If one site goes down, I've now expanded my breadth. So I think that blog content and that model applies the same way. If you've written blogs and you've got millions of visitors through it, then you've got a formula that works. And then it's just a case of, well, how can I do that at an even deeper level? So for me, I think that's what a lot of people make the mistake of doing. They jump when it's like, you don't need to jump. You just need to go deeper. You just need a bigger shovel. You need a much, much bigger shovel because you haven't. And that was when we went from having 30 websites to 130 websites, and it got messy, and we've got a lot of problems. But we also, since we made that change, we went from having 3 businesses to having 6 businesses that made money. So I was like, okay, well, I'm now making more money. So I accept all of the problems, and people every day say, Deepak, this is a problem. This site isn't optimized. That's broken. I'm like, I know. But 2 years ago, we had 500 to 600 leads a month. Now we have 1,000 leads a month. I'm good. That's what I care about. And that's what I'm optimizing for. And now I'm going to turn off all of these SEO tools because people are annoying me, because I understand. And it took me a long time to understand that. So for me, that's the North Star that we need to keep hold of.
Okay, got it. Deepak, I have a bunch of questions, a lot of questions, but let's ask important questions for my audience, for me including. So I think my question about focusing. You mentioned about 6 businesses. I know I love to start many businesses, but I can feel it's my weak side more, because someone needs to stop me. When I have new ideas, I start working on that. I can lose attention to another idea. I can create new projects, but focus is key for me. It's very important to focus, to provide results in one niche, go to another niche. But you mentioned about 6 businesses. Can you tell about your focus? How you stay focused on something that works and can take something else? Because 6 businesses, you need to spend 6 times less time for one specific business. Yes, correct. So tell me about focus.
So I think that then the focus needs to be on. My focus is on building teams that can manage problems that I don't want to focus upon. So the skill that I transition to. Okay, so first of all, I think that a lot of people talk about this principle of focus, but if you analyze all of the people that speak about the importance of focus and look at their careers, none of them focused. So I always find it deeply ironic when people say, look, focus is the most important thing. But if you study any of the great companies, the companies that I've read about, like Apple, Google, if you read like the Apple stories, they were trying to build, like Steve Jobs was trying to build 17 things within Apple at the same time. He did say, let's simplify, but then he found depth of distraction or otherwise in lots of the nuances of what a product should contain and what it shouldn't contain. And there's many examples of this. Mark Zuckerberg, the same thing. So I think that focus is a bit of a myth in that respect. I think you can have focused moments, but focus to suggest that you say no to everything, I think is just not true. I think it's just a case of choosing, of course, but maybe that's what focus is. So maybe it's a bit metaphysical. But then practically, I understood from day one, for me, that if I am it's like the E-Myth, the famous book, right, about how to build a business. And you realize that there's a difference between the chef and the restaurant manager. And you have to decide which one you want to be. You can't become a Michelin 5-star chef who cooks wonderful, duck filet mignon and all of this type of food and become a successful restaurant manager. You have to choose your lane. And that was something that I understood from the beginning, which is why I understood from day one that I won't be the person who's going to optimize or I might develop the SEO strategy, but I'm not going to execute the work, because that's not going to get me to the mountain that I need to climb. That's a trap. So I've spent most of my time figuring out how to build leaders and to build teams and to build systems to support that. So that's the biggest part of my focus, which is managing my leads strategically and asking the team, what about this, what about that? And then managing the team to then manage the businesses. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's lots of problems and there's ups and there's downs, but that's the thing that I've focused upon. And I think that a lot of people get into a building mode. So I'm trying to vibe code at the moment, because it's like, great, you can vibe code, you can build all of this type of stuff with all of these platforms. But I'm also consciously aware that I need to very quickly give it away and build a team and then focus on distribution, because I can't be the builder and the business. I can't be the builder and the business builder. They're different skills and they're different jobs, and you end up doing both jobs badly. So if you come into my business, you'll see that I'm not involved in any implementation ever. And that's, I think, the key distinction that I think sometimes people get kind of mixed up in. And that means building a team. And that means the books that you read need to change. So I read books on leadership, on people management, on motivation, on building culture, because I think that my success is a consequence of if you're part of my team, your success is my success. So the biggest skill I can leverage is making you happy and excited and wanting to be like, yes, Team Pearl Lemon, Deepak, I bleed yellow, like I bleed yellow. This is the superpower. If I learn how to vibe code and become a genius, that's actually not going to help me build my company. So that's, I think, been a big key for me.
100%. And my final question, you mentioned a lot about keyword research, about building, about finding ideas, about content creation, but the main thing, if we speak about SEO, it's like authority, about link building, PR, to get this authority. So you can build amazing product, great content, but websites, Google can prefer, including ChatGPT, authoritative websites that have authority, they deserve this trust. So can you tell about your methods, how to do link building or PR today?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, this is going to sound like a bit of a broken record, but my method is I have a girl in India called Viva and I have a girl in South Africa called Chanel. And I spent maybe 10 hours recording PR strategies that I think are important based upon stuff that I've learned and stuff that I've read, stuff that I've tried, stuff that I've learned, stuff that I've read. And I created about a 10, 12 hour course internally. And I said, cool, your mission is to understand these strategies. And I don't care which one you pick your favorite, and you need to send 20 to 40 emails, tweets, or LinkedIn's a day to connect with journalists, to connect with writers. And my goal is to support them with the implementation of strategy. When I look at delivery teams, my delivery teams are always India, Pakistan, Philippines, South Africa. Never from Europe, never from the UK, never from Canada or America. If you're selling, always from Europe, always from the UK, always from Canada, always from America. But if you're delivering, it's from that regions, and they will work to do PR outreach on a consistent basis. So one of the goals that I had as an example was, you know what, I haven't been on a podcast run for literally about 5 years. There was a period, sorry about that. There was a period when I was doing podcasts, when I was appearing on podcasts. And what was interesting was then I was reading Build Your Own Podcast, that be on other podcasts, what results come from it. And I did maybe 50, 60 of them. And I was like, oh, I don't know if this has helped me. What I discovered 1 year later, because I stopped being on sales calls, but then I started, my team started saying, oh, by the way, one of the reasons they decided to come to the call was because they saw one of your podcasts and they connected with XYZ. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to do a run again, because you know, it really helps at a conversion level. So for me, 2 people in a PR team that are dedicated to building, you know, personal brand and company brand on an ongoing basis. The cost of hiring people from these countries, you know, you could spend $1,000 to $1,500 a month. And that has helped me get onto TEDx talks, to get into the Daily Telegraph, to get into to meet with you as well. So there's a huge amount of upside value. But again, and this is the interesting part, that comes from knowing that you've got cash flow. And for me, and because you, of course, people will say, well, I'm bootstrapped. What do I need to do? So before I did that, when I wanted to get better at sales, because my wife, she would come and listen to me on my sales calls, because I was doing it in the kitchen when I was just starting, and she would walk past and she was in the background. I was like, hey guys, and she'd be like, man, she would just insult me, dude, with my kind of lack of self-belief, let's call it, when I came to sales. So then I read about 30 sales books. And I thought, oh, if I can sell better, I can charge more. And if I make more money, I can do more and I can delegate more. So I switched my reading. For the first 2 years of my journey, I focused heavily on trying to understand SEO. How does Ahrefs work? How does, like, let's read Brian Dean, because he was big at that time. And then I was reading Moz Roundtable and stuff like that. And then after about a 2 year point, I understood I'm reading the wrong books. I have to read sales books because I'm not convincing when I talk to people. And actually, selling then helped me become a much better SEO, because when you sell, you have more clients. And when you have more clients, you learn more because you have to do more. And it's not just an experiment when it's just you and you can do what you want. You know, a client will say, you know what, our site's built in React, or you know what, we deleted the sitemap by accident. And We don't care because we're still paying you and we still want to get leads. Or Deepak, no, you can't update our blog. Or you can update our blog, but we can only upload one post every 2 months because there's HR, but we still want to pay you. You still have to get the result because at the end of the day, we're still going to cancel. So interestingly, to summarize, the biggest advice I have for a lot of SEO people is to really improve ultimately your ability to communicate, because actually that also improved my PR results, because selling is about how you send emails and how you communicate with people and how you land really good quality links, because they just have to like you. So that's kind of my biggest advice to people. The reading, I've read about 40 sales books over about 8-10 months, because I understood that that's going to help me with everything, because it's all communication and PR and link building is all relationships really in the end. So then I thought, oh, this is going to help me in many, many ways. So that would be the one key thing that I think a lot of SEOs don't do that they should do.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I couldn't agree more. I think like all SEOs and marketers without sales background are terrible, you know, so, because they are chasing raw metrics, they're chasing traffic, volume, but salespeople chase only sales. If marketers have sales background, they can provide a good job. Deepak, it's a big pleasure to get my show, to learn from you. I love this experience. We can repeat it again. You know, I love to learn from you, you know, so you bring a lot of value to my side, to my audience side. So let me know how to, and for my audience, how to follow you, how to reach out to you, how to follow you.
Yeah, guys, look, obviously you've got the Pearl Lemon group. If you want to learn more about maybe the sales side, I'm just about to start producing content on sales in general. You can go to my website, deepakshukla.com, and you can find more about me personally. So if you want company stuff, go to Pearl Lemon. If you want Deepak Shukla stuff, you go to my personal website, and I will kind of just meet you there. So that's it, Anatoly.
Thank you, guys. You can find the link in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks a lot. You know, I strongly recommend to anyone to follow Deepak on LinkedIn, to open his website, and if you want to cooperate with him, just let him know that you found about him on this podcast. Okay, guys, love you. See you.